Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies. And I'm not surprised at the way you specially introduced the lady. And the gentlemen who are here, all of you, thank you very much once again for being here. And we thought we were going to have this interaction yesterday, but all through afternoon and into the evening, I was busy in the Elders Advisory Council and Stakeholders interaction that took place here. We couldn't have that. And today, with all the engagements, I thought we should find time to do so. So I welcome all of you warmly to this interactive session. And it's always a pleasure, real pleasure, being with you and giving our people an opportunity to hear from me firsthand some of the concerns they may have. First, I would like to congratulate all leaders and members of our party, the People's Democratic Party, which of course, as you all know, is the biggest and strongest platform, political platform, the most dominant political party in our state and in our region. I congratulate our elders, I congratulate the delegates, I congratulate all party officials, I congratulate, most importantly, my brother partymen who aspired to this very high and important office of governor of the only Ijaw State. They're all very eminently qualified, but as they themselves knew all along, only one of them was going to emerge and did emerge on the 3rd of September in what will pass not only as the most hotly contested gubernatorial primaries in recent memory, but also as the freest and the most transparent. And everybody watched, in fact the whole country watched what happened here, and even outside Nigeria everybody was monitoring. It was actually like, as I told someone else, like a presidential nomination because of the interest. And I congratulate all of them. Congratulate all of them. I think the party won that day. Party won. Unlike the APC, that could not hold an acceptable primary election amongst themselves. And they are so used to writing results, whether it is internal party or general elections. They are so used to this business of intimidating people and writing results and announcing. That was what happened. The shenanigans that took place in their so-called direct primaries. And so we have every reason to celebrate what we did, democracy in action. And you all saw what we did. I mean, appointees contesting against themselves, appointees and people, party members supporting contestants of their choice without let or hindrance, no intimidation, no coercion, no harassment. And that's the name of the game. And at the end of the day, everybody took their ambitions to the logical conclusion. And now we are back to the business of unifying our party. Just a few hours ago, I formally inaugurated a high-powered reconciliation committee chaired by Senator Enaton Smith. And all the members are very senior party leaders and stakeholders in our state. The Elders Committee also set up a special committee chaired by Chief Dakwala. That committee has been working even before the primary. So we are in the process of unifying and strengthening our party once again for the general elections. And you see, talking about primaries, primaries are so important because those are the essential building blocks of multi-party democracy. Any political party that has no capacity to organize itself properly, to hold free and fair and inclusive and acceptable and transparent primary election is not capable of playing its role in the area of strengthening and deepening our democracy. If you are used to intimidating people, if you are used to cooking up fake figures, if you are used to just hijacking and collecting result sheets and writing results and announcing winners without people coming to vote, you won't know the importance of allowing the people in your communities, in your wards, in your local government areas and in our state to vote. What the APC did was a charade. It was a mockery of democracy. It was a desecration of their own rules and constitutions and guidelines. And I'm not a member of their party and will not be, but I'm an interested bystander. We wanted a primary process that will show up the most credible candidate, most credible, just like our own primaries, that threw up a winner. But the APC denied their members, even their members, denied their own members an opportunity to vote for who will be their flag bearer, and simply cooked up figures and allocated figures to aspirants. So ladies and gentlemen, let's be clear. Let's call it spade by its name, and you know I will do that. As we stand today, the APC does not have a validly nominated gubernatorial candidate for the November 16 general elections, ladies and gentlemen. And I want everyone in this state to know that. I want everyone in the APC to know that. And as we speak, there is no validly nominated gubernatorial candidate for the November 16 general elections. The Electoral Act is clear. Even the APC constitution and their guidelines are clear about how you become a candidate. You don't become a candidate by being allocated figures. No. You win the votes. You win the votes. And if the people did not vote, if the APC members did not vote, then there could have been no result. I understand that, rightly so, a lot of stakeholders in the APC and very worthy, respectable contestants, shabbily treated, dishonored, dismembered politically. I hear that a lot of cases have been filed and they are speaking. And again, we are bystanders watching. I want people to be clear. For our democracy to survive, political parties must conduct themselves as responsible institutions, capable of protecting the democratic rights of our people. And if you are a party that only believes in writing figures and allocating figures, well, if there are complaints, you will have yourself to blame. As far as we know, we are waiting to see a candidate in the APC and there is none. None validly nominated. I understand they have a combined membership figure of about 100,000 registered. And once you say it is a direct primary, then you must allow every registered member of the party to queue up in their wards and vote. If you take this 100 and something thousand registered number and juxtapose it with about 45,000 or so that they are located in a hotel, if you were presiding over an election petitions tribunal, you subtract 46,000 from 100 and something thousand registered members. What it means is that those who have not voted, those who were not allowed to vote, those who were denied their constitutional rights to vote, far outweighs those, assuming there was even a vote. Anyway, I'm only commenting as an interested bystander. We are all waiting to see what will happen, but people need to be very careful. We in our party, we went for an indirect one. And you all saw, the whole world saw what we did. Any human activity may not be perfect, but you saw the efforts we made. Delegates were lobbied. Everybody, every candidate had access to delegates. Don't tell me what happened between candidates and delegates. But that was what happened. A lot of meetings, interactions, and people voted. So, my assurance to our people is that the PDP is on course. We have validly nominated candidates for the November 16 general elections. Our candidate is qualified to run. I understand there are issues of qualification on the other side, but again, I don't want to go into that. I'm only a bystander, but we are watching. Our candidate has the experience. Our candidate is tested in the business of public service. Our candidate is not a novice. The office of governor of our state, the governor of any state at all, is a very serious responsibility. I work from morning till midnight. In this business, you are superintending over the affairs of a subnational entity, sovereign in its own areas and spheres of influence and authority. We take decisions that have far-reaching consequences on our people and on the country. We work with security agencies, high and low and medium. We receive and interact with presidents. We meet and interact with fellow governors. We interact and meet and discuss with captains of industry, both local and external. This is a very serious job, ladies and gentlemen. And it's not the kind of thing you force on an unwilling rookie, not tested, and therefore cannot be trusted. This is a very serious responsibility. And I have no confidence in that kind of candidate. I have no doubt that our people on that day know what to do. I know that they will not, under any guise, in spite of the intimidation, in spite of the inducement, they will not entrust their future to the hands of someone who is meant to be a stooge, so that other people can take the decisions and rule in his name and on his behalf. Bayelsans will not go for that. So the choices before our people are very clear. Very, very clear. On the one hand, you have a tested, solid team. Solid team. And on the other hand, you have a rookie and a stooge. And when you check inwards, you may not even find the qualification for it. So these are the choices before us. Our campaigns will be based on the issues of competence. Our campaigns will be based on our record, solid record of performance, solid record of stability. Stability in our state, stability in the region. And I've had calls from top security personnel leaders. I've had calls from well-meaning leaders, both within this state and outside, and in our country, about their very genuine concerns about whether there is going to be a relapse of this state to militancy, insurgency, criminality, and brigandage, where certain characters to be foisted with the leadership of our state. We are all very concerned, and I know that the voters of our state, the people of our state, will voice those considerations. But all in all, I look forward to very peaceful campaigns. Our party believes in issue-based campaigns. You know, the last time our campaigns took me almost to every community. I am not on the ballot, but my party and our candidates will, as much as possible, be in almost all the places that they need to be within the available time. I myself will use this as an opportunity to once again go around and thank our people for the support and the confidence that they give to me, and also solicit support for our party. Now it's no longer a campaign or an election about Doye Diri, Senator Diri. No, it's now a PDP campaign. And we will take the message of PDP and what it has done to our people. We will again remind our people that this umbrella party is a party for the big people in Nigeria as well as the small. This is the party, since independence till now, that has allowed room for minorities as well as so-called majority. And that is the party that will begin selling to our people. And I have no doubt that our people know what to do, especially looking at the characters involved in these elections. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, before we take the next question, Bayelsans are listening to you, and they will want to participate in this media chat. So platforms have been created to enable them reach out and to enable His Excellency also hear them. So for those who want to make comments, ask questions, or by participation in any way, they can go to the following platforms. To stream live, you can go to @Bayelsa New Media on Facebook. To stream live, go to @Bayelsa New Media on Facebook. To send questions, you can go to Facebook. On Facebook, if you want to send questions on Facebook, the platform is @Bayelsa New Media, or on Twitter, the Twitter handle is @Bayelsa New Media. On Facebook, @Bayelsa New Media. On Twitter, the Twitter handle is @Bayelsa New. Twitter handle @Bayelsa New. For text messages or SMS, as we call them, the number is 07087180318. 07087180318. Elizabeth Tuweke will ask the next question, and we hope she brings some feminine touch to that question. Elizabeth.
Your Excellency, sir, of recent, notable members of the PDP, including Restoration Caucus members, are defecting. Do you think this portends great danger for the success of the party come November 16?
Well, thank you. I'm not aware of members of Restoration Caucus defecting. These so-called defections are blown out of proportion. This is the season of defections. This is the season of defections. If politicians don't defect now, when do you expect them to defect? Is it when elections are over? 2015, by this time, over 150 to 200 prominent leaders, not faceless caucus members, prominent members of the party defected. And they did so openly. And I gave them the stadium to go and defect. including the state chairman of the party at the time, the late Colonel Enokoba. They all defected. Many of them. And you heard a lot of people speaking on that day on that podium say, PDP was not only dead, that they had buried PDP that day. That's what they said. You have not seen any defection. You have not even seen up to 10% of the type of defection that we saw 2015. And 2015 defections, I was running as an incumbent governor. Commissioners were defecting. Special advisors defected. All kinds of leaders defected. I'm not aware of prominent caucus members of the restoration defecting. I am told that few members of the party, for some of them for personal reasons. Take for example, if you are a surveillance contractor, okay, including a surveillance contractor who got a job through this government, through the influence that this government gave, and they are calculating their business risks. And you now have an APC leader who has become Minister of Petroleum with the power to cancel your surveillance job. Do you need to ask anybody why that person is defecting? They are not defecting because of a political disagreement or grievance. They are defecting to protect their contracts. Okay? Simple. If somebody has been appointed Executive Director of Finance and Administration of NDDC, that's a top position. And somebody has been promised that you will work with me as a PA. And the man carries broom and bounce ogele. He's not doing so because of any disagreement or grievance. He's doing so to get a new job. So, look, you have to put these stories in their proper context. And I take you back to 2015. When all those leaders, all of them, it was like an earthquake. And we organized ourselves and led campaigns. All those people, most of them lost their units, lost their wards, lost their local government areas. The results that were announced were that we won 7 out of 8 local governments with all those defections. With all those defections. And guess who was the candidate at the time? A former governor. The minister, Chief Timothy Silva. He was the candidate against me. And now, you see, less than 10%. Less than 10%. We are not saying people should defect. We won't celebrate any defection. We want more people to come in to join us. Because the other side, as I said, has no validly nominated candidate, and they will find out very soon. The other side has no qualified candidate for this election. They will find out very soon. The other side has nothing to offer our people. They know that already. We don't want anybody to leave. But most of what is going on is politics or propaganda, blackmail. Those who couldn't get tickets, sponsoring all those to tell people, we told you, if we had won, people would have stayed. People are leaving because we didn't win. And a lot of people are contributing to it. When I was running 2015 and they defected, was it because Senator Diri was candidate? And I ask you, was Senator Diri the candidate of PDP 2015 when they were defecting? I, as incumbent governor, was the candidate. There was no issue of my taking or changing a deputy governor. People were defecting. So, what is going on is the normal Bayelsa politics of Bele Kingdom, normal Bayelsa politics where during election people look for who will offer something better, quick. And I can tell you, a number of these names were not really part of our success story. A number of them maybe one or two, few worked with us. In the last elections, National Assembly and State House of Assembly elections, those who worked to enable our assembly candidates win, those who worked to enable our reps candidates win, those who worked to enable our senatorial candidates win. I've not seen major defections. There was the case of a senator, a certain senator, former senator, who they said defected. Well, if there was a defection, it was a PDP. It wasn't a defection from PDP. You all know that that was the senatorial candidate of the APC against the PDP. But it was portrayed as a PDP defection. In any case, as I said earlier, even the defection of one member is bad news to a party leader. And that is why we have set up the Reconciliation Committee. That's why elders and senior citizens like Chief Dokola, Chiko Okuruti, and others have been working. And I've charged the Reconciliation Committee, which we are setting up in every local government area, to go across and talk to every party member who says he or she has a grievance. Because politics is about resolving conflicts and then reconciling interests. A lot of that is going on now. So I don't want party members to be bothered. What I've seen here, particularly what I saw 2015, has toughened me to note that what is going on is nothing to worry about. But we don't want even one member to leave. And we are taking measures to talk to every aggrieved member. For those who have grievances, let me assure you, there's no party you go to, including the people who are enticing you or talking to you. There's no party you go to that will not have issues. There's no party you go to that does not have interest clashing at some point. So you are better off staying in our party and we resolve our challenges and move forward. If you are not benefiting today, you are not a candidate today, you are not an appointee today, you are not seeking elective office today, who knows about tomorrow? If we have our party strong and in position, who knows? You may be the next person that will use the party platform to get an appointment or to get elected. So stay in the party. Stay in the party. But let us know your grievance. And that is why we have set up the Conciliation Committee at the state level and also at the local government levels. Reach across to them so that we can know those challenges. Sometimes we have those grievances and we, sitting up here in this glorified prison called the government house, I may not know. I am a reconciliator myself. And I listen to people from morning till midnight. So let us know, and I'm also available. So my dear friends, stories of decamping are normal, close to elections, particularly in Niger Delta politics and Bayelsa politics. And what is going on now, or what has gone on now, is nothing compared to what we saw 2015, even when I as incumbent was running. And even when, so you can imagine, when you have a petroleum minister in a state who has been given a platform that he can use to entice people. So you will see those who, with some longer truth, will fall. Whether they will get what they are promised is another thing, no. And don't say I'm the one that says promises will not be kept. I hope they will be kept. But they have carrots to throw around, NDDC carrots to throw around. But we have our story of commitment to our people and our track record of solid performance. And you will be sure that the next election, you will be shocked. Those of you who will be here, you will see what is going to come out. The next election. See. Thank you.
Well, Your Excellency, we still want to encourage audience participation, so we will take a look at the various platforms through which audience can get to us. To stream live, go to at Bayelsa New Media on Facebook. At Bayelsa New Media on Facebook. To send questions, go to Facebook. That is at Bayelsa New Media, Facebook. And then on Twitter, the Twitter handle is at Bayelsa New. Twitter handle at Bayelsa New. For text messages or SMS, as we call it, you can send those messages to 0708 718 0318. 070 871 80318. Anderson Ekade of Niger Delta Television will take the next question. Anderson, please.
Your Excellency, sir, you would agree that these are indeed interesting times in the political landscape of our dear state, Bayelsa. And as such, there are rumors that you are obnobbing with the leadership of the opposition party, that is the APC, particularly with the former governor and 7th Minister of State for Petroleum, Chief Timothy Silva. Could you kindly clear the air on this, Your Excellency?
Well, ordinarily I wouldn't have reacted to this kind of baseless rumor out there. You know, because of the nature of our state thrives on propaganda and rumor. 2014, when I gave the stadium to then candidate Buhari to campaign, because I didn't want a situation where any violence will break out, or he or members of the entourage will come to any harm in our state, because that would have spelled national calamity. Because Jonathan from our state was contesting. 2 days before they came there in Port Harcourt, people were murdered while the APC rally was going on, and I didn't want a repeat of that in then President Jonathan's home state. That would have sparked up national reprisal attacks. So the APC at the time applied for a primary school field to use as a rally. And that's why the experience of a governor here is very important. Because what you do or don't do, what you say or can't say, makes a difference. I saw the letter when they brought it to me. I directed the Commissioner of Police and the Director of SSS to come. That rally should not be allowed to take place in that open primary school compound. Because I know the APC character. They have no membership. The hoodlums they will gather can break bottle and do anything, and they will say, Bayelsa people, Ijaw people have attacked Buhari here. And Jonathan wouldn't have been able to campaign in the far north. So I took a decision to direct the security agencies to stop the rally from taking place in that place, and directed them to call the APC people. I didn't even know the APC people at the time, to look for the most secure place in the state for their rally. They came back to me and said the most secure place was the stadium. I said, don't even let them pay. Let them go and use that place for their rally. And I approved resources for the security people. For the security people. To deploy security for him from when he touched down here till when he left. And the blackmail from the TAN group in the PDP at the time, from the Villa system and the TAN group, those who had divided the party and the state, was that, governor is now, you talked of Hobnobi. No, they said I was going to APC. In fact, that I funded the campaign. Bayelsa is headquarters of rumor. Bayelsa politicians don't believe in superior performance and superior logic. They thrive on spreading blackmail, propaganda, not even in showing by their performance. No. Stories. That's what they do. But I'm different. I'm different. So that was what happened. I know the blackmail and the propaganda I went through from that. But I was proved right. I was proved right. So from that time till now, because of my background as someone who had done a lot of national politics, and the AD rose up from state chairman to the national legal advisor. I've played politics with so many prominent people in this country. The number of them are on the other side now. We are friends, but we disagree politically. We are on different platforms. And so from time to time, since then, blackmailers, when it suits them, they will say those type of things. If I interact with a governor of another from another party to discuss common issues, they will say this gossip. Meanwhile, there are governors who do all kinds of things, pretending to be sanctimonious. I have never traveled with the president out of Nigeria one day. I've never been invited to travel with the president one day. I've never, even when I won 2015 re-election, the president never called me to congratulate me. There are leaders of the party in this state who also never called me to congratulate me in that state. So I know those who spread those blackmails and propaganda from time to time because of my profile, my politics, and so on. And yet I'm the one who has stopped the APC more in this state than any other person. I am. Our elections are off-season elections. Other people, even within this zone, they do their governorship elections during general elections. I have had to lead my party, the PDP, against the APC in the toughest set of elections, confronting the APC at all times. Because I come from a state where people spread all kinds of rumors from time to time. The politics they play is rumor. Now, talking about Timothy Silva, no one has stopped Silva from realizing his political ambitions in APC, from taking over Bayelsa in Bayelsa, more than me. I'm the one that has stopped him. And we will demonstrate that in this election again. Now, myself and Silva have said it. For almost 10 years, we have been political adversaries. We used to be friends, but we've been political opponents for 10 years. But for me, my politics is that political disagreements are not personal disagreements. That does not mean we interact. I don't even know the way to his house in Abuja. I'm sure he doesn't also know where I stay in Abuja. We don't. But you know, as governor of this state, one thing I have done which speaks to my politics of maturity and accommodation and tolerance is that once a Bayelsan gets appointed at the federal level, I always extend my hand of fellowship. It's unfortunate that they have not used that, they have not reciprocated that to work with us to develop this state. I am passionate about this state and our people. That's why I work day and night, spending all our resources. Any money that is left after paying salaries and all, I use it to do our work. And the results are there. And will stand for generations to come, whether people who are short-sighted don't see it or not. And I wish that people also have that kind of disposition so that we can compare notes and collaborate and work for our people. 2015, when Senator Lokbobri was appointed, I told our senators to support his nomination. That's what I do. Now, when the NCDMB man was appointed, I congratulated him. I know who nominated him. I know who nominated him. I know those who appointed him. I know what he has been doing to support those who appointed him and their tendency. But I gave the man a place even now. It's in government house. Onopa staying. And I give him full support. I thank the president for appointing a Bayelsa. When the president appointed Brambaifa, Professor Brambaifa, as acting MD of NDDC, I congratulated him and I also thanked the president for that appointment. That's what you do as a mature political leader. It's not every disagreement you take to the marketplace. And we're in the business of supporting the growth and development of our state. And I did that for Brambafo. So when Chief Silver, oh, by the way, is a former governor of this state, for God's sake. Yes, we have not agreed, we have not seen eye to eye in the last 10 years or so. But for me, it's not an enemy, it's not a personal enemy. He may not take it that way. Say, his style is rough. But my style is not like that. I don't see him as an enemy. I see him as a brother. I see him as a friend. But I see him as somebody I disagree with completely. Completely. On his politics. For doing what he has done in Basambri, which they are now trying to replicate in Ogulabri. For doing what he has done in his own community and other places, I disagree with that kind of politics. Today, tomorrow, I disagree with it. But President Buhari nominated him for minister, and I said, no, senators, I don't want ugly stories about Bayelsa. We are not the only state in this country. We are not the only state in this country. My people where I come from, they say there is no dustbin where you throw away bad friends and bad brothers. I say, no, support him. Don't oppose his nomination. There are people who play sycophantic politics. They will claim that they are the opposition people. Meanwhile, they know the type of things they do. I'm not like that. And the leaders of this country know me. They know me for who I am. I'm a man of honor. So, that was it. Now, after his nomination, to be fair to him, he called. For the first time I had spoken with him in several years to appreciate my gesture. And I think he even issued a statement. Yes, he even issued a statement. And I said, Minister, congrats. Now, the ministry that the president has given to him is a sensitive ministry. And even today, blackmail or no blackmail, on behalf of Bayelsa State, I want to again use this forum to congratulate him and to thank the president. Now, what is left for him to do is to work with the states and bring leader development to our state. Let this not be another case where at the end of his own tenure we will say, had we known. Yes, he's a politician, but I expect him to bring the dividends of that sensitive ministry to our people, not to me. I'm not a businessman, but to our people. I want our oil businessmen to have the businesses that can enable them to thrive well. I want the oil industry to move down to Bayelsa and to the Niger Delta. I want the LNG that we could not start, unfortunately, to be restarted. I want the brass fertilizer that I have been supporting so much to kick off. And I'm looking forward to interacting and working with it and others to see how we bring all players on board to ensure that the Nimbe Branch Road, oil companies, and all of our state government, federal government, we all work for our development. That's my politics. I'm not in the petty Bayelsa politics. And by the time I finish, ladies and gentlemen, you people will know that there was a Governor Dixon here. My standards are quite high. And that's the way I play my game. I don't know his house. He doesn't know where I live. But we have to do what is right. He has intimated me that he intends to visit our state. And I receive every minister who comes. I will receive him officially. Because that's an official responsibility. There's too much pettiness in the politics of the South-South. Too much pettiness. Endless fighting, meaningless fighting between brothers who should be working together for the development of their people, for stability and prosperity of our people. If we have a key ministry and one of us has responsibility for that, we can disagree on the politics, we'll fight on the politics. But Governor Dixon will always leave a room for development, to collaborate on development. If you don't know what it means to have a Minister of Petroleum, I know. I know. Now the ball is in his court. I'm here working hard day and night with the scarce resources that we have, trying to make a difference. We are partisan politicians of two different parties, yes. But I expect that he himself should be thinking about development of our state. So, there's nothing like hobnobbing. I don't need that. Governor Dixon is, I'm a politician of conviction. I'm not a politician of convenience. There are not many Nigerian politicians that can resist what I have resisted up till now. This state has not played opposition politics before me. And I'm very comfortable in my opposition role. I did it to defeat, we're the first to defeat the federal party. Others only learned from us. They may be too proud to acknowledge it. But we in this state taught them, and I taught them how to defeat the federal party without violence. And I'm very comfortable in my opposition role. I'm not an establishment politician, prepared to be in my opposition party for as long as it takes us to take power, provided we are doing what is right. So, ladies and gentlemen, forget about all those nonsense rumors, and some of them emanating from drug addicts. You know them, I don't want to call their names. Drug addicts and criminals and killers who, you know, they don't understand the finer details of political leadership. They think that if somebody is in another party, you must crush the person and kill the person and bury him even. Wipe out his family even. Take out all his friends. I don't do that. And that is why you have stability in this state. Look at what happened in my party and what I allowed. How many governors will lead a party where you have several aspirants from within the government, from outside, having an opportunity, they may not win, but having an opportunity to interact, tell their stories, and try their luck. That is one lesson I've learned. And people will say, Bad Bele, so emperor, is this, is that. When people are dictatorial, you know what they do? They impose no primaries. They write results. We don't do that. My own appointees, supporting people of their choice, candidates of the aspirants of their choice. But I also have my own right to support. And at the end of the day, you saw what happened. Because in a democracy, all of us have the right to support people for our choice. And if my vote attracts more votes, if my support attracts more support to whoever I'm supporting, good luck to that person. But you allow people to exercise their rights. And that's what we have done. So, look, one of the things I've done is to play a different kind of politics in this state. Where no opposition figure will tell you, Governor Dixon intimidated us with state power. No. They may tell you, he didn't give us enough money. I give money more than most because I'm very accessible. From morning till midnight, my office, my house is like a market. They don't know. They don't tell the people. I have flown more people out for medical treatment than any other governor in this state. I support more people on a daily basis. But the difference is that I do it with my own allowance that's available. So you are not going to get 20 million, 30 million, 50 million. You won't get that. I don't have that. I don't have that. State resources are not mine. The state resources must go to the work of the people. That's the discipline we need to have. It will come with time, I know. So we have taught a new kind of politics. Following that, you are going to see healthy interactions. Healthy. Take, for example, it's legitimate for a governor to have interactions with the president and federal ministers. For God's sake, I don't know where people get this notion that governors elected on another platform should not interact with the president. I don't know what kind of primitive local politics they are playing and blackmailing everybody. Meanwhile, they are the most unreliable and disloyal people without character. If you discuss with them, they will tell you how Governor Dixon is known and regarded, and they know me. From where my grandmother comes from, my great-grandmother comes from Ijebuland. They say Omoluabi, and I'm one. You know, honor. If you disagree, we disagree. Look at what I did when the president was coming here to campaign. As governor, it's your duty to receive the president of the Federal Republic. It doesn't mean you're in his party. It doesn't mean you're sympathetic to him. No. Courtesy demands that you do that. And I took him to the Traditional Rulers Council and told him I don't believe in his politics and that of his party. But we're a state of decent people. And he left and played his politics. I saw him off, he went. Even when 2015, Timothy Silva was candidate against me, I was there to receive Professor Shibanjo, Vice President, who came with governors to campaign against me. And yet I said they should land at the helipad of government house. And I was standing there with my executive council members to receive them. And I told the security to allow Chief Silva and his running mate and a few leaders come. And they came in, stood with me. That is maturity in politics. This idea of militant politics, primitive politics, we have to grow above it. We disagree, stay in our platforms, disagree when we should, but also know when to work together for the good of our people. It's unfortunate that in this South, we don't have enough of that principled politics. It's always politics of psychophancy, propaganda, blackmailing one another. Meanwhile, the little test you give, they fall. Disloyal, dishonorable people. And those are the kind of people who spoil people's names and tell stories around. So that's the kind of politics I have played and I continue to play. So tell Chief Silva is my friend and brother. We disagree politically. Look at the candidate he has foisted on his party, for example. An unelectable, inexperienced rookie. And if he brings soldiers and police and INEC to write results, I will resist him. He is to lead his party, I am to lead my party. But decent campaigns, no violence. And we will see whether Bayelsans will support him and his candidate, or me and my very experienced, sellable candidate who can grant interviews, who can communicate and interact with everybody. Okay? So we are not enemies. Thank you.
Your Excellency, the next question is going to come from Lishman Onisedemwa of Rhythm 94.
Good evening, sir.
Yes.
I see you in a very good mood, and that's good. That's good for the.
I'm always in a good mood.
It's good to have you like that. There are media reports, Your Excellency, speculations also involving the leadership of the Bayelsa State House of Assembly. Well, so much rumor, just like you also talked about earlier on. Perhaps Bayelsa should have some clarifications as regards the leadership of the Bayelsa State House of Assembly.
Well, thank you very much, Lishman. I thought seeing the speaker here coming in with me, and I mean the Right Honorable Tonye Emmanuel Isena, Speaker of the House of Assembly of our great state. I thought you were not going to answer that again. But since you have answered, Tonye is one of my most loyal and dependable supporters. Been with me for long. He's a great guy, doing a good job. Forget about the rumors. And do I say, Tonye, even the posts? You know, he's very internet savvy. I'm not. I'm not on Facebook. You see, a political leader is not only in the business of building roads and schools as desirable and hospitals. No, all of these are good, but we are also in the business of building human beings. Leadership development. These are very promising politicians, young politicians, and I believe he has a great future. The assembly is stable, assembly is united, but because I'm not a member of that assembly, I won't say more. But the speaker is here with me, and maybe you can interact with him. Not by a tweet or by a post, but interact with him. He's a great guy. But that's no problem. You know, in politics you have minor disagreements, misunderstandings. They are all normal. And we have the experience. And that's why a governor with experience, because how you react, how you handle things, how you understand, judgments you give, things you say, how you say it, all these are very important. But we have a very wonderful House of Assembly, and the leadership and the members are doing very well. Thank you.
The next question is going to come from Alambo Daton of Creek FM 106.5. Yes, Alambo. Okay.
Your Excellency, Your Excellency, recently there was a stakeholders meeting on the choice of running mates to the PDP candidates. Bayelsans would like to know the outcome of that meeting, sir.
Well, issues of running mate are the prerogative of the candidate. Okay, and just like a candidate emerges through a contested primary process. That one you can easily resolve it, because once the ballots are counted, you know the flag bearer. But the other decision he has to make is subjective, which the candidate alone makes. Very often, people misconstrue it. I had my own experience too when I was to pick my deputy. For those of you who were here, you know that there was a name that I was meant to have picked, and I didn't get to pick that name. Again, for purely subjective reasons, not objective, subjective. I went for Admiral Jonah, who was not even interested, who had just retired, wasn't even a party man, wasn't even in politics. And I know that by doing so, it angered a lot of politicians from that area. Some of them, even from that day, went to the other side, like the running mate of the APC candidate. He expected to be my listen since that time, and it didn't, so he went. So these are normal rumblings and grumblings and so on. But the point to note is, firstly, the decision as to who should be a running mate is that of a candidate. It's not that of Governor Dixon. No, it's not. And the candidate will consider a lot of factors. The most important one being compatibility. Compatibility. The office of deputy governor is not an office to contest for. You know, for politicians, you know, everybody has an ambition. If you have an ambition and you can't run for the head of the ticket, the number one thing, then you just have to pray that the anointing should fall on the candidate to pick you. If it doesn't happen, there's nothing, because it's subjective. And all we do is to support the choice that a candidate makes. I did that. Even recently, look at what happened in our PDP presidential campaign. When, after the Port Harcourt primaries, our candidate, Elijah Atiku Abubakar, on his own, selected former Governor Peter Obi, and you saw the wahala, first from the southeast, and the grumbling, and it's one of those things. But part of what we have done from a stakeholders meeting was to say that, well, you know, we don't have a role. We support. If people are grieved, our duty is to plead with people who are grieved. Our duty is to persuade people. Our duty is to explain to people, because that's all we can do at this time. So for me, that's where we are. Beyond this, if you want to know why candidates has selected the running mate he has decided to take, I am not in a position to speak because I am not the candidate. I've seen some speculation, however, about a senatorial ambition, allegedly, of mine. Let me put it clear. With the work I have done in this state, I have so many options. So many options. I love to even go to school, teach, write. You know, I like teaching and lecturing. I have my farms. I like to stay in the serenity of my farms. So for me, there's nothing really that is do or die. Nothing. And continue to be available to support younger politicians and to work for the party and to support a government if the government needs my support. That's the only thing also, there's nothing, it's only, so let me use this opportunity to caution. There's too much over-sensationalization of these issues. The office of deputy governor is not contested for. It's not contested for. When I took Admiral Jonah, I never sat with NIMBE leaders. I didn't sit with NIMBE leaders. I didn't sit with the Brass Senatorial District. Because it's not an election. I just told people. He didn't even know. He was shocked when I invited him. That's the way deputies are selected. So what we have at hand is to go and present our case to the electorate. But you know, I always say that in politics, all ambitions are legitimate. So those individuals and groups who thought someone should be a deputy other than what we have now, they have a legitimate expectation and even ambition. Now our duty as political leaders is to explain, is to engage, that's what I'm sure that's how the APC. I'm surprised that people are not saying so about it. I don't know how many people were called in NIMBE before the APC who is not a flag bearer, by the way, but he made a choice on somebody. So, his fellow non-flag bearer. I don't know how many were consulted even in Basambri. So, these are normal things, and people over-sensationalize things. But one thing I know is that the PDP ticket is a ticket of stability. It's a ticket of stability. It's a ticket of competence. It's a ticket of performance. I know that. And by the time we take our case to our people, hoping and praying that people will not bring this issue of writing and announcing results that they did in their primaries. The people of Bayelsa that we know, they will vote for, they know the difference. Because if it is not Panadol, it cannot be Panadol. Yes.
It is being speculated that part of the post-primary crisis rocking your party is being orchestrated by elements from the opposition party, APC. What's your take on this?
Well, for me, I'm not one of those who spread rumors and propaganda. I don't believe that the APC is. First of all, there is no post-primary crisis rocking PDP. If there is any party that is suffering from acute, incurable post-primary crisis, it is the All People's, is it Congress? Yes, All People's Congress. I don't even know the name of the party. I don't even know the name of the party. So that is the party that is suffering from acute, incurable post-primary trauma. And they are in the casualty ward. They are in the casualty ward. In the casualty ward. Yes, you know, with the kind of primary that we did, the personalities that it attracted, which speaks to the attraction of our party. Can imagine all the big names coming to show, and they fought very hard. They fought very hard. I congratulate all of them. Coming from where they came from and pulling so many votes. They tried. It's just that the candidate supported by the Ofroma Pepe was too much for them. But they tried. So we don't really have any post-primary crisis. Do we have aggrieved people? Yes. And we are talking to them. We are talking to them. I have personally met with almost all the aspirants, except Chief Alaide, that I've tried to interact with that I have not been able to get at. I've sent a lot of people to him. But I'm also very hopeful. He's a good man. He's my brother. A good party man. A great Bayelsan. And even though I've not spoken with him, I know him. He will want to do everything to support this party, to ensure that this party does not get into the hands of hungry lions. This state does not get into the hands of very hungry lions that will devour it and devour everybody. We are working hard. But the other party, APC, has very serious crisis. And the thing is that they are not even talking to themselves. You see me talking with everybody, setting up committees. We are begging everybody. They don't even talk. They simply file actions in court. And you know, when people go to court and talk to lawyers, you know that is real disaster. So, Femi, let me assure you and assure all of us. I read all that you guys write. Where is Mike Odegu? Is he here? Mike is not here? Okay, tell him we are looking for him. You know, you guys here enjoy absolute journalistic freedom. And it's a pleasure reading what you guys write. And I read all. Every midnight I'm awake reading. Looking for more to read. Sometimes from midnight till morning, another one will come in. But it's a pleasure. Know that there's no crisis facing our party. We are dealing with political issues. Political issues. And we'll do more. I am the chief reconciliator. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, we have several reactions from our audience. And we'll try and take as much as we can. Elizabeth Tuweke has one, or she can take two. She will take two of them, then we pass on the other ones to other members of the
She can take more than that. Don't underestimate a lady.
Good evening, Your Excellency, sir. Teachers in Teachers in Bayelsa State are on industrial action. And the person is asking, are you aware and what have you done about it?
Well, I was told there are some issues concerning local government teachers, or that is the local government portions of some of those issues. I have been told this morning that they were going to have a meeting, and the report I got before coming is that it has been resolved. I am the most teacher-friendly governor because of what we are doing in the education sector. I intend to have audience with them if those issues have not been resolved. But it's not a big deal. It's not a serious thing. Whatever we need to do to support teachers, we will do it. And they know that. The NUT and all of them know that. Yes, madam.
Your Excellency, sir, please, when will you complete the Isaac Borough and Opolelebele Road, which are critical road infrastructures of the state?
Yes.
This is from Sam Patrick.
Yes.
And the last one, Your Excellency, sir. When are you constituting the RDAs to strengthen the parties and grassroots? This one is from Badmos Kemepade.
Very good. I will start from Kemepade's question. RDAs will be constituted within the next 2 weeks. The process has already started today. The state chairman and the political desk and others and the caucuses are looking at those names. But our party is already very strong. But we want to make it over strong. Make it over strong. RDAs were not in place before we swept the polls. If not what they did, their writing result. One member they wouldn't have had in the House of Assembly or in the National Assembly. But Nigeria being what it is, they have that and they try to paint it by claiming that they won an election. But the Bayelsans know, even their constituents know that they never won anything. But that's Nigeria for you for now. So RDAs will come on stream very soon. The grassroots membership, I've even expanded the membership with the support of the House of Assembly. I've expanded the membership. So a lot more people will be carried along. Already I have the highest number of appointees. We have over 2,000 appointees who are paying 500 million every month, and yet they say they are not getting money. So some people, for them, they get money only when the whole state, you don't do anything, you just carry them, they come and share and go. Of course, I won't do that. That is going on. So the RDAs will be done. For Isaac Borough and Opolelebele, especially Isaac Borough, it's a flagship road. And I'm not happy that it has slowed this much. I have signed an ISPO for the company every month so that non-stop they will be working. You see, some of these roads, you people look at them, you just take it for granted. You don't know the cost That Isaac Boro you are seeing, if you hear the figures that we are paying Julius Berger, you will be shocked. And that is almost 12 kilometers. 12 kilometers. From that Etegwe roundabout straight to Oxbow Lake. If you hear the figures Julius Berger Road, you will be shocked. And they dug over 8-9 feet to fill it with concrete and sand before doing it. That road is going to be a beautiful, very beautiful road. We intend to complete it and commission it before we round up. But you see, because people don't know the cost of these roads and the time frame, the time for that road, the completion on the contract was about 3 years. 3 years. Because it's a long road, and with the recession, it became very difficult to meet up. Very difficult. Even the Polo Lebele, very difficult. Long road. And all the dualized roads you see are my signature projects. I could have done one lane, but I said no. If we are doing something for our people, let it be of the highest quality, done by the best contractor available. Best contractor available, so that the next governor can come and focus on other things. If you look at this Opolo, if you go by this Onopa, you will see a dual carriage bridge. If you go to that bridge, on top of it, it's like a football field. And people have been asking me, why didn't you just construct one lane? I said, no. It is going to be very busy in future. When we build, and that's what you should be telling future leaders, whatever they do here, they should do it not just for the present, they should do it for the future. Leading a government, building a state, is more than propaganda, like somebody going to tell lies. Why you say they have paid NEPA bills for everybody? You have not started, they are starting with the Wayo 419. Abba, that's why we say no room for APC and Ruga in our state. No room for APC, no room for Ruga in our state. You start with 419 Wayo. Poor people, you deceive them. If you do that when you are not already there, what will you do when you get there? So we have been building not just for the present, but for the future. Those roads you see, the least one will cost you close to 30 billion. The least one. Look at that Opolo level, far, dual carriageway. Look at AIT, dual carriageway. And how beautiful they look with the street lights. Look at Igbogeni bypass, dual carriageway, street lights. That's what I've been doing in these states. That's what I've been doing. Wait until we begin to use the airport by in the next 3 weeks or in October. You see it. We are rounding up the fencing now. You see that project. That's a project that even federal government does that in 4 years, 8 years, you will clap for the federal government. But we, a state without IGR, and let me tell you, Bayelsa is one of the poorest states in the Niger Delta. The South-South, called South-South. The reason is we are totally almost dependent on the federal allocation. Other states get 5, 8, 10 billion and more IGR every month. And yet, look at the projects we are embarking upon. So, Isaac Boro will be completed. As I was coming in 2 days ago, I even came down and watched, and I saw Berger already working, and I believe you can all testify to that. They are doing that. Even though I have reports that APC people are digging roads. So every election time they do that. They go to the public roads and dig holes. They dig up our roads to spoil them more. They also pack dirt and come to the roadside and drop them every night. Terrible characters. They did that a lot in 2015. I didn't know. I said, what is happening to these roads now each time I pass? It was later I got intelligence that every night they have a squad. They go with chisels and expand potholes. Terrible people in this state. And that's why we shouldn't allow them to come near governance in this state. No room for APC, no room for Ruga in Bayelsa. Thank you.
Your Excellency, we will take your thoughts. Let's share your thoughts with us so that before we go, we'll have something to take home. Your thoughts.
All right, thank you very much, my dear country people. Once again, this is Countryman. It's been a pleasure being of service to you all. It's been a pleasure working with you all for almost 8 years. It's been very exciting. Sometimes it's been very difficult too. But because we have you and your prayers and your support, made our work lighter. I appreciate my team, hard-working team. The sacrifices they are making, it's only future generations that will know sacrifices we are all making. But our state has changed. Our state has moved forward. Our state is now on the path of stability, progress, prosperity, and development. And that is why we are in this business. So even in the remainder of my tenure, I hope to keep working till the very last day. There is still so much more to be done. So much more with all these world-class facilities. Someone saw the golf course and marveled. So this is the best golf course in Nigeria. Someone saw the cassava factory in the Berebre. I said that's the biggest cassava processing factory in the whole of West Africa. Bayelsans don't really understand the totality of the development we have achieved within this period. Now, this is a critical phase. This election is a very important election. It's an election where you will vote for stability or instability. You will vote for security or insecurity. You will vote for development or retrogression. So, knowing you all, I know where you will vote. Candidates are out there. We are preparing to kickstart our campaigns. I know that the other side is not preparing for elections. They are preparing to kill and maim. They are preparing for a fight. They are preparing to write and announce results. They are preparing for intimidation. But my party will be going out to all nooks and crannies to talk to you all. We are not saying we have solved all problems. No. Problems of the people are not solved in 4 or 8 years or solved by one government. The business of making our state better is a generational task. One generation does its best and hands it over to the other. Well, I believe that I and my team have done our best, and that is the case we will be taking to you as we begin our campaigns. I urge you all to shun violence. Say no to violence. Say no to those young men who are carrying arms and driving their fellow brothers and sisters away from their communities because of partisan differences. That is not sustainable. Those communities like Basambri, communities that are doing so like Okmama, communities that are doing so like Ewama, communities that are threatened even like Ogbolowambe now, are communities that are self-destructing. And I use this opportunity to call on security agencies to be alive to their responsibilities. I use this opportunity to call on the leaders of these communities to rise up to the occasion. To say, no, we can't do this. Anybody from our community, whether you belong to a party or communities are bigger than political parties. What you will share historically and culturally, and the bonds, and the blood even that we share, is more important than any partisan difference. So, community leaders, traditional rulers, political leaders, security leaders should be alive to their responsibilities. I will do my utmost, as you all know, to create safe environment. Our state is now known as one of the safest states in Nigeria. And it is my desire to keep it so and to hand it over to the next governor as one of our collective legacies. A state that is stable and ready for development. I want to thank you all for your support and prayers. And I still call on all of you to remember me in your prayers. Remember my family in your prayers. Remember your government in your prayers. We are not perfect. I am not. But we know that I mean well for you. I mean well and I love you all. I still have 4 or 5 months to go and you'll be hearing a lot. Even from now in the campaigns. Stay well. Be peaceful. Be law-abiding. Any thing you see that is not right, please report to the security agencies and to the authorities around you. And I wish you all the best. I see you on the campaign field. Thank you very much as I count on you to decide what is right. Thank you and God bless you all.